my view that subjects may rationally prefer one of the arms of a trial, even though investigators, quite honestly, are in equipoise between the two arms. And individual subjects may prefer one or the other because they have idiosyncratic evaluations of the benefits or the harms. Right now, in today's science, if you prefer the standard treatment, you have an absolute right to get it because you'll be asked to consent to be in the randomized trial. If you refuse to be in the randomized trial, you're sent off to your doctor who is going to give you the standard treatment. But if you rationally prefer the experimental arm, right now you can't get it. And most scientists say it's irrational to prefer the experimental arm because we're in equipoise. But as long as you understand, subjects may evaluate, the subject may be a high roller, for example, may say, when it comes to life choices, I always like to take chances. I would be very uncomfortable getting the standard treatment. I understand there are real risks, but I want to gamble. I want to go ahead and try the experimental arm. Right now, if the drug is not on the market for some other use, there's no way you can legally get access to the experimental arm. I think we owe it to subjects to give them access to the experimental arm, provided we can document that they're adequately informed and they understand many clinicians aren't ready to use this therapy. I go one step further. I argue that it's even better science to give access to the experimental arm on a non-randomized basis. The argument is a little long. I don't know if you want me to go into it.
How about the Cliff Notes version?
The Cliff Notes version is, if you set up a trial that I call a semi-randomized design, you actually end up with 4 arms. Those randomized to control group, those randomized to the experimental group. Those 2 arms produce the data you're going to send to the FDA, just like you do now. But if you have 2 more arms, you have the person who insists on the control, who right now is not followed. He's sent off to his local clinician. Then you'd also have the person who prefers the experimental arm. Collect data on those 2 arms, and you now have information to test the hypothesis that those randomized to the experimental group produce the same results of those who insist on the experimental group. Because eventually we're going to use this agent by telling the patient, this is a good drug, it's good for you, here's what I'm prescribing. It's very important to know that the result from the experimental randomized consumer of that agent produces the same results as those who take it already believing it's best for them. Now, most of the time, you'll end up showing the results of the 2 arms are the same, the experimental randomized group and the experimental non-randomized group. But once in a while, and I collect evidence that this is the case, once in a while, the non-randomized group produces a different result from the group randomized to the same drug. And if that happens, it's absolutely essential that we know that fact. Therefore, I'm arguing it's better science if you can follow these 2 non-randomized arms. I call it a semi-randomized design.